Another presentation, Sustainable Food by Dr. Srinivasan.
Today I happen to be the secretary for this body. And I'm going to share some interesting scientific facts. In fact, I think our international president has set the stage, very right stage. I think she has put the whole tone on the right thing in terms of sustainability already. She has talked about the specifics of Amazon destruction. Of course, even that is getting covered a little bit in this presentation. See, what is sustainable food? I think all of us are eating. The population in the world is growing. Can we keep eating? On one hand, people we eat a lot and then queue up in the hospitals. On the other hand, people don't eat, they starve, they die. People go to the hospital and they die. So either way, probably what we eat is not good, and why they don't eat, we don't think about it. So that is about sustainability. In terms of the population growth, in terms of the limited resources available in the world, are we having a sustainable future in terms of food? That's a big question. World over, several universities and several researchers have been engaged constantly in very, very serious research, including United Nations, on this. Probably some of these researchers don't come to our attention because we are not such a great lobby to bring out things of this nature. So sustainability is ecologically responsible, fair and accessible, probably economical to have food, must be local, no waste. Of course, beyond all these things, it has to be healthy. I think this is the total chart of the sustainability. So where are we in terms of what are the challenges of sustainability today? This is the population growth. As per the projections of United Nations, they started projecting in 2002, that was that lighter graph. The darker one, the darker bar, is the revised projection in 2008. As per this projection, we are currently 7.14 billion population in the globe, which is likely to go up to 9.15 billion in 2050. It's a huge number. So world population in 2050 will grow beyond 9 billion. Significant proportion of these people will depend on meat, poultry, etc. And livestock products will continue to grow if the current pattern of food continues. Beware. Much of the new population will be urban, which is obviously all of us are seeing that. Based on the estimates published in 2006, the expanded population is expected to consume almost twice as much of animal protein as of today. While the projections are far lower, the annual growth rate of livestock after the Great Depression, livestock started growing in a big way. Even though the future projection is not growing at the same proportion or the same ratio, but still it is a big jump in terms of the absolute terms. So all this is going to happen what? The natural resources are limited, but they always converted, it's not converted so well when it becomes meat or any of these poultry or eggs, any of these products. So what are the challenges of sustainability? This is the meat consumption, because our previous speaker as well touched upon the meat consumption. This is the meat consumption as per the United Nations numbers. 21.69 million tons per billion people, which is poultry. Poultry is growing in a very big way. We are seeing that the pig, bovine meat, all of them are growing at tremendous pace. The last bit of it is showing poultry is growing, it is supposed to grow by 2050, from 2010 to 2050 by 172%. These are some of the conservative estimates. Okay, then with all these growth in meat, poultry and all these meat related products and animal protein, what is the impact on global warming? So this particular research report was also touched upon by the earlier speaker. It's a very famous research report. It is about 450 pages. If you get the time, please download the report. It is the United Nations FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization sponsored research. You could actually download and then see many of this. It says, amazing fact, worldwide livestock farming generates 18% of the planet's greenhouse gas emissions. We are all talking about global warming. But who is the cause? We say automobiles, planes, ships. Is that true? 18% of the planet's greenhouse gas emissions. And it is greater than all the world's car, trains, planes and boats, which account only for 13%. So if you want to stop global warming, people have to stop eating meat. Simple. Much of livestock's contribution to global warming come from deforestation, which is what is beautifully brought out in the earlier presentation, how the Amazon forest is completely denuded. Definitely the estimations of the 50% is likely to be more true than the lesser percentage, because many of the researchers and people have talked about these ratios. Obviously, this talks about the Latin America, which is what has been touched upon. 70% of former forest cover has been converted into grazing. This is much beyond even 50%. Yes. Please.
Most of the things that we see over here, and even the previous presentation, they focus on cattle. So when we speak to the non-vegetarian in India, they say we don't eat beef. So most of the issues are with beef-eating countries, which is probably going to be somewhere in the Western world. We eat only chicken or one of these, and that doesn't seem to have to do with what's happening in destroying Amazon or in the fact. Please don't show.
Yeah, this is only one aspect of it. Probably some of the slides which you will be seeing. Out and out, we have studied. I've actually studied means I've not done the fundamental research. There are a lot of fundamental research papers available on meat, on egg, poultry, on fish. Because we also talked about sustainability and being healthy. There are a whole lot of things that we can speak about. Probably we have less time, only 20 minutes for this speech. So I've restricted more on the environment and sustainability and a little bit on healthy food. There is a whole lot of literature available in the open. And all of them are not simple statements. They are all research reports and people who are neutral, not that they are vegetarians. And most of these researches have happened not in India, in developed countries, in Europe, in the United States of America. So, the beauty of this is that we are talking about various reasons for these emissions. It talks about methane, it talks about the effect of deforestation. All put together is resulting in this 18% greenhouse gas emissions. One of the questions that some of the Indian vegetarians might ask, especially the lacto-vegetarians, what is the impact of cattle? Because it means that you want to completely do away with cattle. If you want to, it's not exactly the same. So all of us as vegetarians, we might prefer to say that everybody should become vegetarian. What is more important to say here is that cut down on that. If you really look at the proportion, this is the population of animal population as per the United Nations FAO statistics. Poultry is 19.4 billion. Leave out that, it's about 7 billion is the rest of the livestock, which we normally call as livestock, is 7 billion. Out of that, how much is the world's dairy cows, which is what predominantly giving the milk? I don't think much of goat. Goat population itself is very low. Sheep population itself is low in the whole statistics. The proportion is hardly 264 million. It means 0.3 billion out of 7 billion cattle. So it's pretty much logical. If you want to have a cow and then keep it for some time and then take the milk, versus rear the cow and cut it and eat it. It's logical. You don't have to really do a lot of research for this. Because the primary source of energy, all of us know, is sun, which is what is giving the energy to the plants. And these animals eat the plants. It's just not the plants. Soybeans, so much of food grains that we will see. So, is it a very effective method? For example, if I got 10 rupees, if I go to the shop and buy something straight, I spend 10 rupees. If I am going to engage the chain of brokers and middlemen, will I get the value of 10 rupees? I will not. It's a very simple logic. I don't think that we need to have a huge conference to even understand why it is wrong. Is it an efficient way? It's not an efficient way. Let us not talk about ethics here. Ethical is different. I'm talking about, is it economical? Is it an efficient model of food chain? No, it's not an efficient model. Then water. We always say that Panchabhutas, this country, in the Vedic science we say Panchabhutas. Which are the Panchabhutas? Fire, space, air. When we say global warming, all the three are covered. And then comes water and earth. That's what we are seeing. All of them are put to risk by the habits. What is the water? Water is increasingly scarce. All of us know that future wars will be bought on water. All of us, I think many of the people have told about this. The water requirements for meat protein production are much, much higher. There are several studies and research reports from European universities, Australian universities, American universities. So many people have done research on that. As high as 26 times, and the lowest estimate being 4.4 times. Where rain is natural, everything is taken care of, even there it's about 5 times more water consumption. Some of the research reports estimated even as high as 100 times because they go on a different kind of a life cycle model. Because many of these calculations are pretty, I think we are just putting it in one line. There are some thousands of pages of research and so much of work has happened before this to calculate all these things. 1 pound of beef, this is one of the estimates. There are several estimates which vary. So this is what I said, it's about 5 times to 100 times, that's the range. A pound of beef requires approximately about 2,500 gallons of water, whereas the soybeans requires about 250 gallons and a pound of wheat is about 25 gallons, which is more efficient. And when we talk about that, it doesn't mean that the animal drinks only that much of water. It's a complete life cycle consumption of the water, starting from the animal consumption, the meat production, and the water that is required to produce the food grains for it. It's a complete life cycle. Livestock directly uses 1.3% of the total water used in agriculture. However, when the water required for the forage, grain production is included, the water requirement for livestock production dramatically increases. With the water used to produce a single, and this is the lighter side of it, if you want to put it simply, a single hamburger, you could take a luxurious shower every day for about 2.5 weeks. That's the estimation. So conservation of water is definitely important. If you want to sustain the food chain, you need to conserve water. To do that, definitely the meat production and the animal protein has to reduce. So this is how it will be. Even if you use more and more of that, probably the bathtubs will be empty, only with animals, perhaps. What's the impact on land? More than 2/3 of agricultural land devoted to growing feed for livestock, with only 8% is used to grow food for the direct human consumption. 70% of the food grains from USA, grown in USA, is not used by human beings. It's used by animals, for animal feed. 70%. What it could do? It could actually feed 840 million people. The Indian context, 84 crore people, which is close to 75% of the population of India, can be fed by that. So the whole agricultural industry in USA depends on the animal protein industry. The entire world population were to consume as much meat as the Western world does. Of course, we saw that there are reduced consumption to some extent, even there. The global land required would be 2/3 more than the globe. I don't think we can produce or expand the globe. We can warm up the globe thanks to global warming. I don't think we can expand the globe to give more land for the globe. No, it's impossible. So anyway, something has to be done to that. 26% of all the land worldwide is used for grazing. Total agricultural land dedicated to feed crop production amounts to 33%. About 70% of agricultural land and about 30% of the global land area are used for livestock production, feed or for growing or for rearing them. The US animal husbandry accounts for 55% of the soil erosion. All of them you can cross check and then go and cross check. And sedimentation, 70% of pesticide use and 50% of antibiotic use. In fact, this 50% is an underestimation. There are research which says 80% of the antibiotics produced in the United States are used in animals, which become meat finally. Tropical forest in Brazil, we saw, destroyed daily. We saw also the rate at which it is getting denuded. This is the impact on land, thanks to the way in which all of us or all the people in the globe are eating. Okay, fossil fuel. Again, all of us know that fossil fuel is, anyway, it's after some time it's not going to be there. What is the impact on fossil fuel? In fact, we talked about fish. There are research reports that says that the fossil fuel when used in fishing, in terms of trawlers, in terms of boats, in terms of the gear, versus the protein that is derived out of that, or the food that is derived out of that, is far uneconomical. Apart from the healthiness, we talk about mercury pollution, and other things are there already. I think Petra has got some excellent video on the mercury pollution in the fish, in aquaculture and things like that. So fossil fuel, it takes 78 calories of fossil fuel to produce 1 calorie of beef protein. 1 is to 78. 35 calories for 1 calorie of pork, and 22 calories of 1 calorie of poultry. So is poultry not global warming issue? It is, in a different way. If that is methane is an issue here, the fossil fuel could be an issue. It could be so many things. But 1 calorie of fossil fuel or 1 calorie of soybeans. But unfortunately, as she was also telling, this soybeans also is not eaten by human beings. A substantial portion of that is eaten by the animals. Efficient use of grains. It takes about 60 pounds of soybeans and grains to produce 1 pound of beef, and 3 to 6 pounds to produce 1 pound of turkey and egg. In terms of beef, actually it's one of the least efficient energy conversion medium, because it's very simple. All these living beings and animals, they have to eat, they have to live, they have a metabolism, they have to procreate. Where will they get the energy from? It has to be out of what you give. So finally, you cut it and take the meat, throwing away the waste. That is actually adding to the pollutants. That is again another big problem of the industrialized abattoirs, industrialized dairy farms, industrialized farms. That's another issue. Soil conservation. When grain and legumes are used more efficiently, our precious topsoil is automatically made more efficient in its use. But we use less agricultural resources to provide for the same number of people. So all these and other resources are also getting hit. So finally what happens? Thanks to this exorbitant growth in the animal feed industry, the way in which people eat, amount of animal protein, finally all this is getting affected. So will it sustain? Difficult. Okay, we saw sustainability also involves healthiness. Health, being healthy. Whatever you eat, if you are going to spend more money to the hospitals, it's not healthy. What happens to that? Agricultural chemicals. Being higher on the food chain, animal foods contain far higher concentrations of agricultural chemicals than plant foods, including pesticides and herbicides. There is an enormous amount of research that has been happening. There is something called bioaccumulation. We know when the fat of an animal is again used as the feed for another animal, there is something that happens, something called bioaccumulation. The kind of fat that gets recycled in the whole animal food chain and then getting accumulated, finally when it is eaten by the human beings, the harmful effects are far, far higher than a simple saturated fat getting into the stream of blood. Exposure to livestock drugs. Over 220,000 different drugs, including steroids, antibiotics, growth hormones, and other veterinary drugs given to livestock animals. Poultry is one of the biggest contaminated antibiotic usage industry. Probably, I just go and walk into any poultry. Fortunately, my profession happens to be a chartered accountant. So I visit several companies in several industries. I also visited poultries, how they grow. I've also visited their aquaculture units. What is fed into that? So all of them, it's not only scientific, we have also seen it with our own eyes happening. And microorganisms, all these antibiotics, what it does, it comes into the human being when they eat. Then many of the antibiotics will not work for you. Your own doctors will say, when an antibiotic is taken, if you stop in between, next time the infection is coming, this antibiotic will not work. We all very diligently take it for the 6 days or 5 days, the course of antibiotic. But what happens, without even knowing, the antibiotic resistance comes into the picture here. And then all of you have heard something called superbugs. Superbugs, I think we Indians should be wrongly proud about it, because we are one of the countries which is supposed to be harboring superbugs. Superbugs are some infections which cannot be cured by the existing antibiotics. So these kind of antibiotic resistance create superbugs, untreatable diseases with the current science. Pathogenic microorganisms, worms, parasites, Campylobacter, have you heard of it? Salmonella, have you heard of it? Eggs, supposed to be, I think the egg board of this country is promoting egg, a day an egg. Amount of salmonella in the egg, amount of salmonella and Campylobacter in the poultry meat. There will be research that have been conducted. 20 days these bacteria live there after it is cooked and eaten. And then the cooked poultry meat can be completely heated. It could be put at a higher temperature. All of them will die. But by the time you cook it, it even gets into your gut. This is not my statements. These are all researcher statements. If you want to know much more about this, please go into a site called nutritionfacts.org. Nutritionfacts.org, Dr. Michael Greger of United States of America. That's a charitable organization. They do a lot of research. None of their presentations are driven without research findings. Please go through them. Several of these microorganisms, parasites, even carcinogens, how they are created. Red meat gives and feeds the bacteria. When it's eaten, the bacteria also eats, and then they in turn create carcinogens. There are so many things that you can read. Shelf life is differential. A simple thing. You keep a leaf of lettuce out. You also keep one piece of poultry or a meat out. How many days? Both of them will sustain. Obviously, after a few hours, you can't even stand there. But the lettuce will remain. You'll only put it in the dustbin. Simple. So what's the conclusion then? It's obvious, right? For the hunger-free world, is the meat industry sustainable? It is not. Can it feed all? No. There will be more hunger in future. The resources are limited. The only solution is to go veggie. In fact, Albert Einstein, who was non-vegetarian in the beginning, he became actually a vegetarian at the end. He has actually prophesied vegetarian food leaves a deep impression on our nature. So many years back, he has already talked about the sustainability. He has not talked about ethics here. He has talked about our nature. If the whole world adopts vegetarianism, it can change the destiny of humankind. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.